For those of you who don't know me, my name's Keeva. I've been coming here for about 5 years now. And yeah, I've recently had spiritual growth, I feel like, and yeah, that's my testimony. I'm really awkward. This is really awkward for me. All right. So my favorite verse is John 13:7, when Jesus is washing his disciples' feet, and he says, "You do not understand what I'm doing now, but someday you will." That verse has ingrained in my head once I heard it, and it has helped me with my walk with God because I knew I could trust what Jesus said and that one day it'll all make sense. So luckily, I was lucky enough to be raised in a Christian household by my mom, so I grew up knowing and having a pretty close relationship with God since day one. My parents split up when I was 3, and I rarely saw my dad, so knowing I had a father with me everywhere I went gave me a lot of peace throughout my childhood. A lot of my siblings walked away from their faith, and it was a touchy subject to talk about, so I figured I should keep it to myself so I wouldn't upset them. I also didn't have any Christian friends growing up, so it made me feel almost isolated from everyone for being a Christian. As I said, my siblings walked away from their faith and started living for the world, and being the youngest of 9 children, I saw it all. I watched my siblings start to party, do drugs, and do whatever they wanted to. Seeing all of that at a young age seemed to normalize it all for me. It didn't take long for me to follow the path my siblings took. I started drinking on the weekends with my friends, and later on started getting into heavier drugs. I saw the people I loved doing it, and they seemed fine, so I didn't think it would harm me. Looking back, it was easier for them because they weren't followers and didn't have the same guilt as I did. I still had my faith, but I was completely lukewarm. I did whatever satisfied my flesh, but had the consciousness to know that God wouldn't want me to do the things I was doing. Living as a lukewarm Christian, I fell into depression, and everything in my life felt like it was falling apart. I stopped going to church, found out my dad had cancer. I moved out and wasn't speaking to my mom. I was failing in school and had no clue what I wanted to do in life. All of my motivation for life was gone, and I felt completely empty. About 2 years ago, I had looked up crisis lines and was about to take myself to the hospital because I didn't want to be here anymore, and I couldn't imagine things getting better. I talked to one of my sisters, who's an atheist, and she gave me advice on how to improve my mental health. I did exactly what she told me to do. I started showing up to school more, having a productive routine, doing everything the world would consider as self-improvement or self-care. But that didn't change a thing of how I felt at all. I still felt empty, depressed, and alone. Now that I wasn't speaking to my mom and not going to church, I had no fellowship. Until my classes changed and I had a new teacher. This teacher spoke about God and her faith, and I felt peace with her. This lady was like an angel to me. She was so inspiring and genuine and kind, but most importantly, she pointed me back to Jesus. She reminded me of John 13:7, that God has a plan for me, even if I can't see what he's doing now. I started to trust in God's plan more and more, and that very slowly built my relationship back with him. Jeremiah 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Since completely surrendering to God and trusting in his plan, I would say my life has done a complete 180. My dad has fully recovered from his cancer. I got a new job that I love, and I feel like I could use it to honor God. I'm starting school this Wednesday, and I'm so stoked about that. I'm so happy about that. My passion for life has come back in full force, and I can't wait to see what God has in store for me. Yeah.